Today in the HeadRush, we're going to look at the magic and the power of scenes. Let's go. Hey, hope you're all doing well. So before we get into this, I just want to say a massive thank you to all of my watchers and subscribers so far. The channel is slowly growing, and realistically, if it wasn't for you guys watching, liking, commenting, following my stuff, I wouldn't be doing this. So thank you all for keeping me going. This is a lot of fun. All right, let's keep moving. So, like I said, we're going to look at the magic and the power of scenes in the HeadRush. Now, I'm using the HeadRush pedal board, but of course this same idea is doable in both the MX5 and the gig board. Now, on the pedal board, there are 8 different buttons that you can either assign scenes or patches to. So what I've done is I've assigned the 2 scenes, which is now available since the firmware update, to each of the buttons. So rather than having 8 patches or 8 different things, there are 16 scenes in this one patch, which is pretty amazing. Now, is this kind of thing usable? Definitely. The way I've set it up, not so much. This is more a demo, just to have a look at it and see what we can do. So this is the rig. It's called Dave's Mega Rig. If we come into the hardware assign, here are all my scenes. So scene 1, I've got a clean, then this is a clean number 2. Marshall, the SLO, I think it's a PV, that one. I'd never used that amp before. It's amazing, actually. I was really quite blown away by it. I've got the SLO lead and a Mesa Boogie on that one, and just some effects on that scene up the top there. So let's just have a look at what this does. So this first one, scene number 1. So that scene right there, that's just my go-to clean sound. It's based off what I use every week. But then if we press this same button, we've now got that one right there is the new jazz chorus in there, so the JC120. I changed the IR, I changed the reverb, and I changed the delay. So as you know with scenes, if you come into here, on this one I've got a big plate, and on number 1 I've got just a smaller plate. See the impulse response change there as well. Pretty amazing. So across the board, I didn't bother changing the parametric EQ, but that capability and that power is amazing. You can go in and you can EQ your particular amp that you're using on a scene, change the scene, change the EQ, it's going to be matched perfectly, because obviously every time you change, it's going to be a little bit different. Next one, so we've got a Marshall style thing, so have a look here. I've kept the same Marshall amp and settings on scene 1, but then when we go to scene 2, changed the cabinet, brought the overdrive on, changed the reverb, and that sounds like this. It's not how you play it, but close enough, right? Change the scene. Pretty mad. Let's come across to the next one. So this is the Soldano scene here. Scene 1, which is supposed to be on. So I've kept the same impulse responses across each of the patches. I've got, I think, just 2 that I'm changing between, but I'm changing more or less on this bottom row just between 2 different styles, 2 different clean sounds, 2 different Marshalls, 2 different Soldanos. So for different songs, different ideas, you can get different sounds. let's have a look at the next one. We've got a big lead. This first one is, yes, the SLO extended range. So a bit more gain. I've got the overdrive on, compressor is off. Back to the Marshall blend on the IR. Bit of delay, bit of reverb. And then on the second scene when we change, so I've now changed the reverb, I've changed the delay. Now I've got a Mesa blend for the cabinet. I'll turn the chorus on, overdrive still on, and I'll change the amp so it's a Mesa Boogie with like a Petrucci style sound, hence the chorus on this one. Hell yeah! Alright, let's come across to the top now. So this top scene is my clean number 2. So basically it's the same amps that are in here. I've got the same Fender and the same Jazz 20. I've got the phaser on, which is like a phase 90. Back to the Marshall, different delay, different reverb. Compressor's still on as well. So again, quite a different sound there. I just wanted to play around and see what I could actually do. The only thing that I found that you can't do is if you load an overdrive, for example, you can't change the overdrive. You can change the settings, you can change the preset, but you can't change the actual physical overdrive, which is a little disappointing, but end of the day, you can still get some pretty wacky and cool sounds from it. Then I changed here, what have I done? Stone phasers off. Oh yes, this one is a dotted 8 delay. I called it triplet, but it's dotted 8. You get the point with that one. That's really cool. I use that kind of idea all the time. I use it on my single, The World Stop Turning, and I use it when I loop on the weekends and do that sort of thing just to help fill out and give it an extra flavor. I quite like it. So in this instance, I'm using the reverb and the chorus on the Jazz 120. So the reverb's feeding the delay, so it's not too in your face. It's got that little bit of reverb on the repeats now, so it's not like the delay is going into the reverb. The reverb is hitting the delay first. Cool. This next scene here. So this, I set them up so I got clean, Marshall. Let's go in there. What did I do? Scene 1. Oh yes, so this one I've got the Plexi 50 watt overdrive on. I've got the Marshall impulse response and just a bit of reverb. So quite simple preset, this one. Nice, and then when I press that one, I'm now the Plexi, yes, with the EL34 mod. Overdrive still on, I've got a bit of phaser, delay, and changed the reverb. So with that one, I kind of had Eruption in mind when I was piecing it together. Sounds alright. It's not quite perfect for that particular song, but that's the vibe that I was attempting there. Next along is this amp. Now, I've never used this amp before, which is this one, the PV51, but it is actually amazing. So this is the first one. What have I got? Overdrive, amp. The Messer cabinet sounded good with this. A little bit of slap, a little bit of plate. It's just another sound, more or less, but if we change this one's mad. So on that one, delays off. I've just got a bigger reverb. That real 80s kind of sound on that one. Lots of reverb, you know, this sort of thing. That kind of idea. And then this last one is just some effects. I figured that was enough amp changing and mucking around, so I came in and sort of, I'll change the effects that I've got. Even though I can't change the effects that are already loaded, I can change the presets of the effects. So we'll come back to the clean so you can hear what's happening. So first of all, this kind of deal. And scene 2. So these also work really great. If you come to, let's do that PV one. So if I go to that first effects channel on the PV. So none of the amps are being changed, the cabinet's not changing, the most important things are not changing. So you can go to any of these kind of patches and you can bring in the effects. Like I said, you don't have to do it the way I've done it here. This is just an example of what you can do. It's pretty amazing. So of course, all of these scenes have been saved the way that they are. So if you're using these big effects, obviously if you go back to the clean, then those are going to change. However, I put the spills on, and I definitely recommend leaving the spills on for this example. So that way it's going to carry across into your clean scene. It's not going to muck it up. The only problem is using scenes, it still doesn't eliminate the gap in the switching, just like when you're changing from preset to preset. I do have a video about how I get around gapless switching. That's just here. You can check that out. But for what I'm talking about, well, I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. So this is the same button. So even though it's on the one scene, I'm just changing, and even that Marshall, that's the same preset on both of those. It still takes a second for the HeadRush to reach for the information that it needs to change the other presets that are in that one. Number two, I've got the same amp there, so I don't know if it's reaching and changing that, but it's definitely changing the impulse response. So there we go, that's a big part of the sound, obviously. So like I said, the way I've set this up, I don't necessarily think I'm gonna use it exactly like this. However, I would definitely load up two different amps. I'd have my clean amp and my dirty amp, and I'd probably do the clean sound like the two Fender and the Jazz 120. I really like that, and it seemed to load up a little bit better on the clean sounds than what it does on the distortion when you're changing amps. But for each of those scenes, you can customize it. You can make your crunch tone have a little bit of overdrive or none if you want it. On your heavier rhythm patch, you can have more overdrive, or however you like to set yours. And then on your lead, you can change everything again. You can have different delays. It's amazing, the capabilities. And the biggest one, I think, is that you can change the parametric EQ. You can EQ each rig, save that setting, bang, load it up. That's amazing. I'm not 100% sure how this is going to load into the gig board and the MX5 because this is the pedal board version. I think it will still work, you just obviously won't have access to the 8 different things. If anyone wants to try that out, download it and import it into your MX5 or gig board, let me know what happens, that'd be cool. So there we go, with the power of scenes you can make your rigs way more flexible. Thank you so much for watching, stay tuned, I'll see you next time.